right, guys, happy new year. I know it's been a while since I've filmed a podcast for you guys and uploaded a video. Life's been a little crazy with the holidays and the state of everything going on in just the world and my life. So I haven't had a lot of like mental and physical energy to sit down and film a podcast. But with it being the new year and me missing really talking to you guys and sharing about my projects and knitting, I decided to sit down and film a podcast for you. I feel like because it's been so long, I really do have a lot to share with you guys. So let's jump into the first work in progress. So the first whip I want to share with you guys is my Attune shawl by Andrea Mowry. I did share this project with you guys last episode, but I've since basically ripped out the whole thing and started it over. So originally I wanted to do kind of like a gradient situation between my three colors of Spincycle. And as I was knitting it and I had been using the lathe dyed in the wool for quite a long time at this point, and I was just sitting there and I was like, oh, like this is a lot of the one color. So I decided to switch to Family Jewels. And I just didn't really love that stark line. Like it didn't really do the gradient thing that I necessarily was hoping for, because I think the Spincycle colors I chose just have a little bit more contrast between the three of them. So I decided to completely rip it out to make the color shifting look a little bit more intentional by striping them, kind of giving it a more hand spun look. And I really, really love how it turned out. As a reminder, the colors that I'm using for my main color is Malabrigo, Sock, and Jasmine, and I am using dyed in the wool lathe, Family Jewels, and the Meadows. So I do need to put this on a longer cable, but I tend to push that as far as I can because I hate having to change cable lengths. But here is how it's looking. Oh, that's a little awkward. Isn't that like actually kind of beautiful with the striping? I feel like it looks so much better. And I feel like with the lathe dyed in the wool does not change color as often because it's more of their tonal ones that they offer. So I don't think it was giving me that color shifting vibe that I wanted. So by striping them, I think it looks so good. Here, this is technically the top. So when it's done, it'll kind of look like that wrapped around me, and I think it looks gorgeous. The Attune shawl, it is taking me quite a while, mostly because I had to completely rip it out and start over because I didn't like the colors. But with half fisherman's rib and brioche, you're essentially knitting the same row twice, so it does take longer, but I'm really loving it. For someone that is not as familiar with brioche, I've only ever done one other brioche project in my entire time that I've been knitting, and I've never touched half fisherman's rib. I am really enjoying this project. It's very meditative. Half fisherman's rib and brioche is one of those stitch patterns where once you get a feel for the stitch, it can become very mindless and easy to knit and not really pay attention to what you're doing, but it's also engaging enough where you don't feel like, oh my God, I'm so bored, I have to put this aside, like you can with like an all over stockinette sweater. So I really do appreciate that. This is my kind of like, okay, I need to take a break from my sweater project, that's stockinette, and I grab this because the color shifting makes me happy and the texture makes me really happy. So it kind of gives me some variety in my life. But absolutely loving it. I kind of can't wait to make another one of these already, but I want to do my hand spun. Andrea Mowry does have a sample that is basically just her hand spun, and it's gorgeous. So I can't wait to play with that at some point as well. The next project I want to share with you guys is my husband's Rhue sweater. Last time I showed this to you in the last episode, I had like barely done anything to it. I had essentially just started like the color work, which starts all the way up here right after the neckline shaping. So I really did not have a lot to show you at all, but I have since finished all of the color work, split for sleeves, and I'm now working on the body. So I have quite a bit more to show you, and it looks so good. Here it is, guys, look how beautiful that, oh my God, it looks so good on the camera too. I literally love this sweater. I have since had Cameron try it on a few times just because this is the first time I've ever knit a sweater for a man's body shape. And my husband is pretty broad when it comes to his chest and his shoulders. So I was a little nervous because this sweater technically doesn't have specific instructions for like a male presenting body or the typical male shape. So I'm kind of winging it low key. So I basically took his chest measurement, and I think he has like about a 50-inch chest because he's barrel chested. I think I decided on the size 8, which I believe, I can't remember the exact finished bust measurement off the top of my head, but I believe it's gonna give him like 3 inches of positive ease. So it'll be like fitted enough to give him a really nice shape, but not too fitted where he'll be uncomfortable, and not too oversized where he'll feel like he's kind of swimming in it. So I was really worried about the chest, making sure the chest was gonna be broad enough, making sure that the shoulders were gonna be broad enough, and to make sure that the armholes were gonna be wide enough. So because I'm super anxious, I had him try this on like a million times, and it worked out great. I didn't have to modify anything really. I just followed the pattern and it worked out perfectly. So I will insert a picture of him trying it on after I finish the color work. It looks so good. And it will grow probably about an inch-ish after blocking, just because of its superwash and the weight of the sweater in general just makes sweaters grow more than your swatch does. So I think this will fit him beautifully. He's already super excited about it and he can't wait to wear it. He likes to laugh and say that he likes to brag about my knitting. So he's super stoked that he now has a sweater that he can wear and brag about without me being there. So I really have loved this project. It is a very interesting construction because it's a contiguous construction, and the shoulder detailing, it like starts out as a like half saddle shoulder, half raglan. So if you look here, I don't know if it'll focus. Yeah, so here is like the saddle part of the shoulder. So you're simultaneously doing like raglan increases and also this saddle shoulder kind of construction, and then you go right into raglan increases, and then you're doing the raglan increases in pattern. So it's really kind of confusing, and sometimes the raglan doesn't quite like, I feel like it doesn't look awesome like right here, but there's not really much you can do with that when you're trying to increase but also still keep the color work pattern. It's gonna look a little wonky. But I feel like from a distance, you cannot tell at all. It looks so freaking good. So I did have quite a bit of time like deciphering the charts, because there is quite a bit of charts in this, and like figuring out the increases in the raglans and also doing the color work. It was a little confusing, but I eventually got there and I think it looks beautiful, and I honestly can't wait to make my version, which is going to be a non-superwash version. And essentially it's gonna have the same contrast color, which is this like taupe color, but my top is going to be this really beautiful brown from Explorer Knits called Snout. So I probably won't make my version until like end of summer, early fall. That way I can wear it in the fall and the winter. It'll also give me a break from the pattern to where I don't feel like burnt out on it by the time I get there. But love it. It looks so good. I am so happy he loves it and that it fits him well, because I was a little nervous about it and I was gonna be really, really sad if I was gonna have to rip out everything to fix stuff. So I'm glad that we don't have to do that and it's gonna be perfect. Oh, my stitches keep falling, you guys. Hold on one second. Okay, I got it. We're good, we're good, we're good. Because I swear to God, if I drop any of these stitches, at least at this point, if I drop any stitches, I'm only working in stockinette in the contrast color, so it won't be as much of a heart-wrenching moment. Oh, and the colors that I'm using, the green is called Forest Floor, also from Explorer Knits in their in their Rockies DK, and the contrast color is Woolly from Explorer Knits in their Rockies DK. Cameron has very sensitive skin, so that's why I went for the superwash option, even though I'm pretty sure the samples that Rebecca did for this pattern are non-superwash. Okay, don't you just love when you get fiber and wool all up in your mouth? Anyway, so my next whip is actually a pair of socks, and this was just kind of a spontaneous cast on. I pretty much always have a pair of socks just like on the needles. This tends to be my on-the-go knitting, like in the car, or I don't really want to focus on anything while I'm home watching TV. I'll knit on these, or like knit night, so I can like talk and actually be present in conversation and with friends at knit night. So these are just a pair of vanilla socks, and I think they look so good. I know it's winter, almost spring, and these are very autumnal colors, but autumn will always have a place in my heart year round. This colorway is Saruman's Storeroom from Tiny Human Knits. This is from her Lord of the Rings self-striping sock collection that she did. I think she has a couple installations of this. She kind of does a couple, like I think 2 or 3 colorways every so often from Lord of the Rings. And I saw this colorway and snagged it. I thought it was so stinking cute. Absolutely love them. I am experimenting a little bit with these because my sock gauge isn't terrible. It's like 7 stitches per inch usually, which is like fine, but like could be better kind of situation. And I feel like my socks have never really fit great, okay? So previously, I knit a pair of socks on a US 0, which I will share with you because they're finished. And they were still a little loose, even though I went down in needle size. So for these, I dropped to a 56-inch sock and I'm on the US 0s. So I'm curious to see after blocking how well these fit, because if they fit great, then I'm like, I think I finally found my magic sock numbers, which has been a process for the last 3 years. But you know. I believe, let's see, I did a 1x1 rib cuff for like, I think 15 rows. And then I did a like 3-inch ankle. I think I've decided that I'm just not a tall sock girly. I want to be so bad, but my calves are so thick compared to my ankles. And I really don't want to mess around with decreases. So we're just gonna stick with like a 3-inch ankle. So that way it goes above my ankle bone and like there's a little bit of length, but we're not like going up to the calf where it's either too tight and then fits good in my foot, or then it fits great in my calf and then everything else is too big. So very curious to see after blocking how these work out, and I'm gonna be so stoked if I finally figured out my magic sock numbers. But always a fan of self-striping. I love Tiny Human Knits. She has an Instagram and an Etsy page. She has beautiful self-striping colorways, and they're often like fandom inspired or like Taylor Swift inspired. She does a lot of like themes and they all look so beautiful. This is my first purchase from her and I love the yarn and I love the colors, and I will probably be buying more from her very soon. Oh, I'm also knitting these 2 at a time. I am a fan of knitting socks 2 at a time for self-striping specifically. And that's just because I really like when my stripes line up and I split my skein in half and make sure they start at the same point in the color repeat. So the colors will match and I don't have to worry about tension issues, because sometimes, most of the time, my second sock ends up being a little bit looser than my first one. So this way, they're the same tension, the color striping is the same, and I know it's not faster, but it feels faster, because at the end of this, I'll already have 2 completed socks. I know it's the same amount of knitting, but it just feels like it's less. So that's how I trick my brain, I guess. Okay, so the next 2 works in progress are like not really works in progresses yet. I have just finished swatching for both of them. One of them gave me a little bit of a run for my money when it came to getting gauge, but the other one, I like pretty much sized down my needle size and got it immediately. So I will share with you. These are, I guess, that are more like plans, but I will probably be casting on one of these pretty freaking soon. I love my husband and I love knitting for my husband, but I really wanted a sweater for me, and both of these have a quite large gauge, so it's not going to take me long to knit them up either. So the first one I want to share with you is the Felix Pullover by Amy Christoffers. This is an Aran weight raglan sweater that has these really beautiful eyelet details along the raglan seams, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I've heard a lot of people rave about this pattern and how much they love it, how it's easily modifiable when it comes to length, when it comes to whether or not you want the eyelets or not. Sleeves, short sleeves or long sleeves, quarter sleeves. So I've been wanting to knit this sweater for a while. When Explorer Knits came out with their farmers market collection back in August. They announced it in August because I remember getting a sneak peek at some of the colors at Flock. I fell in love with their colorway, Freshwater Mussels. It's this really beautiful like navy blue that has a bunch of different shades of like gray and green and brown and like the iridescence colors that you would often see on like mussel shells. And I knew I had to buy that colorway. But here it is. Let me fix the skein a little bit. There we go. It's kind of hard to see because of the lighting in my apartment. It's a little too dark almost, but this is their Carlsbad worsted base. It's a superwash merino, and the pattern calls for an Aran weight, so I am just holding this together with Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in deep petroleum blue. Really, really beautiful, like blue-green situation. Here's the swatch, so you can definitely see those colors a lot better. So this is my swatch with the Freshwater Mussels from Explorer Knits and the Knitting for Olive deep petroleum blue soft silk mohair. It is freaking gorgeous. I literally cannot wait to cast this on. It's a little blown out. My camera doesn't really know what to do with the lighting in this colorway, but that's fine. Oh, it's so good. So I am actually obsessed and I want to cast this on now. So I probably will be casting this on, I don't know, probably tonight or tomorrow, because I just am like, I just love the colorway so much. And I like am itching for a quick knit, but also a sweater knit. That's for me. The Rhue sweater is the first large project that I'm knitting for him. And I'm kind of like itching to cast down a sweater for myself. So I feel like this one will be a good one because it's such a large gauge that it'll fly, and I love the color. So I feel like it's just gonna give me that serotonin that I need. I will be knitting the size 4. The recommended positive ease is about 7 inches. So I'm choosing to do the size 4, which is going to have a 52.5-inch finished bust, which should give me roughly 6 inches of positive ease. And I think that will be perfect, especially because oftentimes when you block an actual garment, it does block a little larger than your swatch does. So I probably will end up hitting that 7-inch amount of positive ease pretty easily with blocking. I try to measure all of my things when I'm blocking to make sure it hits the right size that I need it to hit. So super excited about this. Probably will be casting this on relatively soon because I am obsessed with it already. My last work in progress, that's like barely a work in progress, is the Doppio by Seunghee Hong. This is a pattern that I've heard a lot about, specifically from a lot of people who knit with Explorer knits, which apparently I'm turning into these days because I love their colors and I love their bases. But it is a bulky weight sweater, and you achieve that by holding 2 fingering weights together and a suri or a mohair. You can also do it with a DK with a suri or a mohair. And I'm actually using one of the suggested yarns, which is Explorer Knits. I'm holding 2 Donnelly socks together with their Surrey alpaca. And the yarn that I chose is also from their Farmer's Market collection. And this is all technically part of my acquisitions as well, because I got these and we're super excited, so I swatched. So the colors I'm holding together are Botanicals, which is like almost like a gray minty green blue, and it has a variegated, it's very variegated with different shades. And then Catch of the Day. Catch of the Day, this looks so dark. I promise you guys, it is not this dark in real life. My lighting, there we go. It is very much similar to the Freshwater Mussels. It's kind of its sister colorway. It's the tonal version. And it's like a very like navy, like a heathered navy almost, is the best way I can think to describe it. And then holding it with that is my Surrey lace alpaca, which is like kind of the thing giving me my like color serotonin right now. And that is blue spirulina. It is definitely getting blown out a little bit on the camera because it doesn't know what to do with how bright this colorway is. But isn't that freaking beautiful? So I'm holding all of these together for a Doppio. And honestly, when I swatched, the colors didn't come together like I thought they would in my brain. I don't think I realized that the Surrey alpaca would be so prominent. I was thinking that it would just give enough of a like boost of color, but it's like kind of taking over the whole sweater, and I don't think I mind too much. So here is my swatch. Definitely a very marled situation. It's probably one of the brighter sweaters I will have ever made in my knitting experience, but I like kind of love it. I don't know, I haven't decided how I feel about it yet. I think from like a distance, it'll look like really, really cool. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Let me know what you guys think. I don't know if I'm like in love with it or not yet, so that's why I'm not casting this one on. I'm gonna cast on the Felix instead, because I'm not sure how I feel about how the colors are playing together. But I think that might just be because it's a lot brighter than I usually go for, so it could be great to push me out of my comfort zone, and it might look beautiful in an actual sweater versus like just like a swatch. But I don't know how I feel. I feel like it could be great, but I also feel like it could not be. So let me know what you guys think. I'm wondering if it's because there's just too much contrast between the colors that I chose, that they're not really blending like I wanted them to. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, because I don't want to get too far into a project and be like, actually, I hate this. But I also might knit the project and actually fall in love with it. So I don't know, give me your guys' opinion down in the comments below and we'll decide together as a team. So for spinning, I only have one work in progress for you guys. This is from 316 Dye Studios. This is a colorway I purchased, I think it was from Flock. I think it was from Flock. It was a colorway that Cameron actually picked out that he really, really liked and was like, can you spin this for me and make something for me? And I was like, sure. Didn't know what it was gonna be, but Mckenzie, or Emtothethird, she's actually hosting a Spin It to Knit It Harlow hat knit along with a couple other YouTube knitting creators. And I was like, perfect. That's like the perfect excuse that I needed. So I spun it up and it looks beautiful. It's really funny because it always surprises me how the colors can change after spinning it compared to what it looks like in the braid, because I would have not have been able to tell you that those oranges would have turned into more of like rusty pinkies, but Cameron still really loves it. I decided to split the braid in half and then just spin it end to end for both plies and ply them together. I originally was going to do a chain ply, so I was gonna split them in half and then spin it all onto one bobbin and then chain ply, but I practiced chain plying on some leftover singles and it did not go well, friends, like at all. Like it was awful, I hated it. And I was like, okay, if it was this bad on just like some scrap singles, I do not want to try to chain ply on the fiber that Cameron picked out for himself, because then there would be no going back. I would rather practice on like the fiber that I have in my stash that doesn't have a plan and all of that and like mess it up and then not be like super upset about it. Whereas if I chain plied this and it looked awful, I would have felt so bad because Cameron was really, really excited about this fiber. So this is on their Pullover base, and it was really funny because I think I talked to the lady who owns 316 Dye Studios, and I was telling her how I'm a brand new spinner and like is playing with new fiber types and experiencing different things. And she told me that if this was my first time spinning Pullover, that I would actually love it, which is all I needed to be convinced. And I really did enjoy it. I loved it a lot. It is like, I think like, it's no merino or rambouillet, like don't get me wrong, but it's definitely still really lovely to spin with, and it does have a little bit of like a fuzz to it, which that could be more from like me spinning than it really is like the quality of the fiber, but really, really enjoyed it. Definitely can't wait to knit this up. I just have to wash it, and I have to skate it up and I have to wash it. I was aiming for like a fingering weight, and I think I mostly achieved that. It's probably more like a sport, or maybe even a DK or a worsted. Because I was aiming for a fingering, but I don't think that's what we got, friends. I don't know, but we'll see. We'll knit it up and we'll see what happens. I think he'll love it, and I think it'll turn out great. And I think the color shifting will be just enough to get the gradient, but won't be like too long or too short, so we shall see. It'll be my first project knitted with my hand spun, so I'm super stoked to see how it turns out. Okay, so for acquisitions, I already showed you a lot of my new acquisitions because they are in my last two works in progress, which is the Doppio and the Felix. And those were botanicals, catch of the day, blue spirulina, and freshwater mussels, all from Explorer Knits' Farmers Market collection. I have two more acquisitions from that same order, and that is still catch of the day, but in their Surrey. It's always so fun to me how different bases will take color, because The Donnelly sock is very much like a heathered navy, whereas this is coming off more as like a blue-gray. But I only bought one skein because I actually am using some stash yarn, and I plan to knit the Tessellated Vest by Andrea Mowry. The yarn that I plan to use, so this is gonna be my Surrey. My main color, I guess, is technically supposed to be a sport weight yarn, but I'm going to be using some fingering weight yarn that is in my stash. This is from Knit Picks. It is their gloss base in the colorway Wharf. This is, I believe, a wool silk blend. I had actually purchased this for a test knit that I did a while ago, but it ended up not working out very well and my gauge was all off, so I ended up dropping out of the test knit. So I reclaimed all that yarn. It's kind of just been sitting in my stash for a few years. So I'm gonna use this as my main color, and then for my Spincycle, I'm going to be using Space Oddity in Dyed in the Wool, which is this really pretty like light blue, not cerulean, like light blue, sky blue, pink, and gray color shifting yarn. I think that's gonna look great. I really love that I went with this. I thought about doing the blue spirulina, but I thought it would be too bright. So I'm kind of glad that I went for a neutral, because I think it'll kind of tone this guy down a little bit and it'll look really, really nice. And it has enough contrast where it'll really give that like plaid vibe. You know what I'm saying? So don't know when I cast this on. This will probably be a spring knit for me because it's going to be a vest kind of tank top situation, and the silk will hopefully keep it from being too toasty. So that'll probably be a spring cast on. The other colorway that I purchased from the Farmers Market collection is their Tomato colorway on their Rockies DK, which is this really beautiful variegated red. I have been wanting a red knit hat forever, and I almost bought their colorway red roller skate, but I didn't, and I've regretted it ever since because it was like the most perfect neon bright true red, and I regret it every day. But then they came out with this, and I thought this was gonna be beautiful. I love me a good variegated yarn, so I think this will look absolutely lovely. I think I'm leaning towards the Oslo hat right now, but I am open to suggestions. So let me know your favorite DK weight hat pattern down in the comments below. I am very much open. I love the like shape of the Musselburgh hat, so I'm kind of going for that same vibe, but I only have one skein of this, and it is 274 yards. So let me know your favorite hat pattern down in the comments below, because I am super excited to finally get the red hat of my dreams. And then the only other acquisition I have is actually from someone that is in the Discord that I'm in for Portland Makers. They had a extra skein of Farmer Daughter Fibers Odang DK weight after making, I believe, the broom. No. She was either made the broom or the nebula, but she had one whole skein left over, and I snagged it because it's a base that I'm really, really interested in, and it's in the colorway Sunnies, and it's just this really beautiful like gold mustard, and I bought it with the intention of making some sort of like hood or a balaclava, but I think I might be just shy of yardage because of my just like the size I would need to knit. I don't know, I feel like you can kind of go with some negative ease for hats or hoods, so we'll see. But I've been interested in this base ever since Candace came out with it and Ashley from Sorella came out with it. So it was a pretty good opportunity to snag just like a one-off skein and kind of play around with it and experiment with it, because it looks so beautiful. It is so soft, and I am very, very intrigued. So also, if you have any hood patterns or balaclava patterns, drop those down below, because I am kind of shopping around right now. I'm stoked about all of that. Don't have any more acquisitions to talk about. So let's get into some life stuff. So I've been doing a lot of reading since the last episode. I believe I was in the middle of reading The Wicked King by Holly Black, which is the second book in the Cruel Prince trilogy. I have since then finished that book, read A Queen of Nothing, which is the final and third book in that series, as well as have read the first Mistborn book, The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. I've also read Light Lark by Alex Astor, and I am currently reading the From Blood and Ash series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I have read the first 3 books, and I have just started the 4th book, which is The War of Two Queens. So I have done a lot of reading. So it's really funny because I read the first 3 books of the From Blood and Ash series like 3 years ago, and I just never picked it back up again because I think the 4th book hadn't come out yet. But I had suggested it to a coworker who has a very similar like taste in books as I do. And she was reading it and was like raving about it. And she was like, oh my God, this is so good. And in my brain, I was like, I don't remember these books being all that great. Like, they were good, don't get me wrong, but I don't remember them being like, oh my God, you know? So then I had to reread them. I needed to know. And you guys, I am like so shook. It is such a good series. I am enjoying every minute of it. It's like really nicely paced. The way it is written is so good. The characters are great. You root for your characters. And I am just like, once like one thing resolves, another thing happens, and there's like constantly things happening to get you through each book. And I like can't believe I forgot how good these were. They're so, so good. I am currently on the 4th book, which is The War of Two Queens. I'm obsessed. And it's so funny because I'm pretty sure I must have just like not finished the 3rd book or like blacked out while reading it, because as I was reading it, I'm like, I don't remember any of this happening. I don't remember any of this end stuff going on, or like all these revelations, all of these like plot twists. I never like remembered any of it happening. So I either didn't finish it or I just like blocked it out. I don't know, but I am obsessed with it currently. I have the 4th book, I have the 5th book also downloaded onto my Kindle, and then I'm going to read the prequel series. I think the prequel has 3 or 4 books, and I think the final 6th book is coming out this summer. So super stoked. Highly recommend the From Blood and Ash series if you like kind of a darker fantasy with a romance subplot. Well, okay, I wouldn't say it's a romance subplot. There's probably like equal amounts fantasy and equal amounts romance. There's a little bit of spice in there, if you know what I mean. So, highly recommend. It's not for everyone, but I really, really enjoy it. And I think it's just like the perfect popcorn read because there's always something happening and it's very easy to get through them. So, highly recommend. As for what I am watching, I am still watching Campaign 2 Critical Role on YouTube, which is their campaign from a couple years ago. They are currently finishing up their campaign 3. I think there's only a couple more episodes of that left. So I do plan to start when they start their 4th campaign, starting from like the start on that one and keeping up with it. But as of right now, I am watching campaign 2. Absolutely love it. Each episode is usually about like 3 hours. So they're really, really long, but they're super great to put on like while you're doing chores, while you're knitting, while you're just kind of around the house. Love all the actors, love all the characters that they've built and that they've created and they're playing. If you are a D&D fan or like are very interested in D&D, want to learn more about D&D, highly recommend looking them up on YouTube and watching some of their playthroughs because they're all super great, super knowledgeable, and they have so much fun. They're such a great group of people. I am also, for TV shows, I am currently watching The Mentalist with my husband. Super great. We're only in like, I think the 1st season right now. It's basically like a crime show, but the main character is Patrick Jane, and he's not actually a cop, he's a mentalist. So he knows how to read people, use like deductive reasoning, he does hypnosis and like all of these things, and he's also just like funny character and a great character to like follow through the series. Basically like a consultant for the CBI, which is the California Bureau Investigation, which I think is really funny. We just kind of watch a couple episodes while we're eating dinner, and that's kind of it, but that's what I'm currently watching right now as well. The only other thing that's kind of new is that I've really gotten into making matcha lattes at home. So I somehow ended up on matcha TikTok. I have learned a lot about like the culture around matcha and like ceremonial matcha, how to make your own lattes at home. And making your own matcha lattes at home actually tends to be cheaper and tastes better. So I really got into doing that. That's kind of a new hobby for me right now. It's my like sweet treat that I have after I get home from work. It gives me that little boost of caffeine to get like through the rest of my day and enjoy the rest of my afternoon and evening getting off of work. I've always loved matcha, so it's really fun that now I get to make it at home and I get to save a little bit of money in the process. All right guys, that's all I have for you today. If you liked this video and you want to stick around for a little more crafty goodness, please hit that like and subscribe button, as well as click on that bell icon to get notifications for the next time I post. Thank you all for stopping at my little crafty corner of YouTube and sharing your time with me today. See you next time. Bye.